Did James Cameron make a movie that might be a Best Picture contender with Avatar 2: Way of the Water?
Shoot. Sully, stick together, my guy. We are so fucking back. Let's go.
Yeah. I guess I want to ask you first, like, what's your temperature on the first Avatar? It's been 13 years since we got it. Uh,
Yes.
One of the highest grossing movies of all time,
Number
unseated by.
one.
Is this still number one? I thought it was unseated by Avengers. Is that
Uh,
not the case?
good question. So, unadjusted for inflation, of course, Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time. It was able to surpass Endgame pretty substantially with the two re-releases. Of course, China re-release in early 2021 was almost $60 million, and then the re-release this fall, in the lead up to Way of the Water, was another like 75 million. So now it's like I think 100 or so over Endgame for number one once again, unadjusted, of course. But yeah, in terms of the temperature, I'm a big fan of Avatar. I have like really fond memories of going to see the original, December '09. I don't remember when exactly I saw it in relation to opening weekend, but I do remember like the big blizzard, the big snow that we had in New York at that time. It's a pretty
Hmm.
common story a lot of people have if they saw it in New York or New York City or something. Saw that with some of my friends, and like we were just really excited to see it. And then it actually ended up being my first Blu-ray purchase as well. Was the
Wow.
Avatar Extended Edition, which was the way you could see the extended sex scene between Jake and Neytiri.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like I think people know that scene, but almost forget that it's only on the Blu-ray because when we had the re-release come out this year, it wasn't there. And when I saw the re-release this September, people in my crowd like audibly gasped when it cut and didn't show the extended scene. And I had to look it up. I was like, oh, it's because it's only a Blu-ray scene. Makes sense.
You're
But
with some
yeah,
horny ass viewers, dude.
hell yeah. And I was looking forward to seeing it again this fall because it had been some time and I wanted to see it again. So I saw an IMAX 3D. I didn't see it in 3D at the time. And I was like really blown away with the quality of the 3D, which I think is well known at this point. It's the best movie ever made in 3D, one of the few that really justifies seeing it in 3D. And I loved it. I thought it still really holds up and rips as just a fun adventure. As people know, it's familiar story tropes. Pocahontas, Fern Gully, Lawrence of Arabia, Dances
Mhm.
with Wolves. We know this,
Yep.
but I don't fucking care because I think it's just a fucking banger ass time. I still really enjoyed it when I saw the re-release. So I was really anticipating Way of the Water as a result. We know it's been so long. This movie went into production finally back in 2017. A very long process to make this, but doubt Big Jim at your own peril because I think he did it again.
Yeah, just quickly for me, it's a movie that I think have seen maybe twice. I like it, I appreciate it, but I wasn't as blown away by all of it. I recognize that the filmmaking aspect, the inventive aspects, the dedication of Jim Cameron to be able to make a movie that looks this stunning and is so much CGI, almost all CGI, is just remarkable. He is a dedicated man. Like he has a vision. He's like, I'm gonna fucking make this vision, and no matter what I have to do to do it, if I have to make a submarine that can go to the furthest depths that they've ever gone, or if I need to create new technology in order to capture the images the way I want to, he does it, and I completely respect that. And I mean,
Hmm.
you even just look at the films he's made, and it's like,
Oh
yeah, he's undeniably one of the greatest filmmakers of our lifetime. So,
yeah, James Cameron's resume. We should just state it real quick. He made two of the greatest sequels of all time in Terminator 2 Judgment Day and Aliens. And then he literally made the biggest movie ever twice in Titanic and Avatar. And now he's just running it back with more Avatar. But he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to invent underwater motion capture filmmaking. I'm going to do VFR, variable frame rate, in picture. I'm going to have a screen on your movie screen that'll have different frame rates in different parts of the same shot. So he just on one hand, would it be cool if he was more like Ridley Scott and Spielberg, who just crapping out movies all the time as he gets older? Sure, we would love that because the quantity would be fun. But I can't help but just be really impressed that he was like, you know what, my resume is unlike anyone else's, and I'm just gonna do what the fuck I want to do, and it's pretty cool.
yeah, and I think going into this, I was like, all right, I know that I'm gonna be blown away visually. I know that this will probably be a competently made movie. I really came out just impressed and saying, wow, this is really, really great. And I should never have doubted him. I think my take backs of this are a little long, which I mean, fuck, we just talked about Bardo. It didn't feel as long as Bardo, and it was about 30 minutes longer. So I'll give it credit there. Um,
13-year wait. It can be long. That's my
yeah,
take on
it's
it.
I do have to say 3 hours 12 minutes. It's a bit of a task, and this
It
is
is.
after what watching the Batman, which was 2 hours and 50 minutes this year.
Yep.
Movies are getting longer. Not exactly sure how to make sense of that, given the fact that everything else in terms of our lives are mostly getting shorter and more consumable. Um, I think the I think I really liked the second hour, which I've heard a lot of people having issues with that, and the third
Uh-huh.
hour I think is undeniably one of the greatest action movies of the last
Yeah.
probably like 5 years. So it's like okay, James Cameron's throwing his fastball, hitting the black still. Um, but overall, I think I still have the same takeaway where it's like, yeah, Avatar's pretty good. I just don't understand why this is like the highest grossing movie of all time. It's kind of insane.
Spectacle, man. It's all about the spectacle. No one goes in and is like, ah, James Cameron, amazing writer, amazing dialogue. That's not what he does. Truly,
Mhm.
it's never what he's done if
No.
you watch his other movies. But that's fine because that's not what he's invested in. That's not where he excels. And I think, to your point, I think Avatar: The Way of the Water is clearly superior to the original. And to me, a big part of that was I thought it was significantly more emotionally resonant
Mhm.
and affecting in that regard, which again, with James's track record is not a given. And then, of course, it still has all those other qualities we were coming to expect, which was, you know, pioneering new filmmaking techniques and presenting that to the audience in a kind of breathtaking manner. Um, and the action chops that he has as a filmmaker, well established, but still really great. The ending is just a fucking thrill, you know. But I was really surprised with how much I connected with the Sully kids. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the key hang up with this movie working or not working for someone would be whether you like being with the Sully children. And not that they're all super richly drawn or anything, but I all think they make enough impression and they really fit the movie. And like you said, that middle hour once we get to the ocean kingdom, the Metakaina,
Mhm.
and we meet a new kind of Navi, a more aquatically adapted Navi, and you see some stuff that you know well. It's like kid gets bullied by other kids, you know,
Mhm.
outcast middle brother, stuff like that. I was like, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Obviously, I know what they're doing. I know what's happening, you know, but I was really digging it. I thought the youngest kid, Talk, was it? Toke?
Took.
Took. Super cute. Super,
Oh yeah,
super lovable.
dude. How could you not love Took? Although I
Absolutely
do
not.
have to say, the fact that they just kept taking Took everywhere with them, like get a
Yeah.
babysitter, bro. Like what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
It's
At
like
the end there, when like
they're in a
Took and
fucking war zone and they're taking Took out on just like a jaunt into the battlefield. Like what is going on?
what was it? Took and Kiri, they're like, we have to go back and get Spider. I was like,
Yeah.
no, no, Took, stay back. You don't
Yeah,
have to go.
right. Took, you cannot add anything to this mission. Just go home. Just be safe.
But I think they do a really good job of, at least for me, it really worked with the two sons. You know,
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember their names.
It's
The oldest one is
Natam.
Natayam, and then the middle one, Loak. I think they do a really good job with Loak by the end there too. And then when obviously spoilers for Avatar 2, when Natayam dies, I was fucking sad, man. It's not like we even spent a lot of time with Natayam, right? Because
Mhm.
he was the oldest son, he was the most obedient one, the most competent one. He was the one who idolized, you know, Jake Sully the best as his dad. But I don't know, like I really liked Loak's stuff, especially once he starts connecting with the Tuktoon, the whales, right? And I think
Yes.
that was like a brand new introduction to this that I thought worked pretty well, really interesting. And I was like pretty invested with Loak by the end there. And then that's not even to mention I think the Kiri character, who is the
Mhm.
progeny of Sigourney Weaver's Avatar, which was an
And is
interesting
Sigourney
introduction.
Weaver.
And played by Sigourney Weaver, I think, in a kind of brilliant way, right? Sigourney
Yeah.
Weaver playing teenager via mocap pretty compellingly. The
Mhm.
Kiri character also I thought was quite interesting and well realized. So Kiri and Loak I think probably stood out the most to me. How'd you feel about all the kids?
Yeah, I really liked all the kids. I think the one like drawback to the kids getting so much shine is like you basically sidelined Zoe Saldana and Kate
Uh,
Winslet, which is like what a
yeah,
fucking choice that is.
it,
It's something only
it
James Cameron could do.
totally. I think that's exactly right. Like he is better with male characters than female characters,
Hmm.
generally speaking. And Natiri is sidelined, unfortunately. I think Natiri is fucking awesome, badass in the first Avatar. Zoe Saldana, one of the great motion capture performances, the first Avatar, I would say, easily. But she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this, and kind of like the drawback of James Cameron presents itself, where it's like Jake gets to do like a lot of the dad stuff, but Natiri doesn't get to do a lot of mom stuff,
Oh,
and she's just kind of playing off Jake, and that's just I think unfortunate because I really like that performance and that character from the first movie.
completely agree. And the only like real time Natiri gets to show out is when she's just being a warrior and being like
Right.
a angry her mom who's on a
Yeah.
rampage, and it's
Crazed
like
mom. I was like, ah, this is a
a little
little on the
tough.
edge for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get Ronald played by Kate Winslet, who is set up as like the one that they need to win over in order to like stay as part of the village. And then she gets maybe like 5 or 6 lines, and most times she's just like pretty salty and like
Right.
angry. And it's like, man, like you have Kate Winslet, like you gotta like let her shine. And I assume they're setting that up for the third movie,
Hmm.
where they're obviously taking a stand with the Metacaina, and maybe Kate Winslet will have more of a role there. But I was definitely disappointed by that. But just circle back to your first question. Loved all the kids. Completely agree on the middle one.
Loak.
Loak. I think his connection with um the Tokun, the Totokun, was one of
The whale. Yes.
the most moving aspects of the whole movie for me, and I think speaks to one of the most evident pieces of this, which is just like James Cameron has such a respect and love for the ocean and for sea creatures
Oh
and
yeah.
for the connection that people can have with them. And I think that was one of my favorite parts. Even just thinking about it makes me a little bit emotional because it's like so beautiful to see not only Loak but the rest of the Metacaina have these relationships with these creatures, and the relationship that the creatures have back with them. And it's just like really wonderful to see and adds so much to the movie. That's why I loved the second hour, which some people feel is a little too long
No.
or
Yeah.
indulgent. It's
Yeah.
like, man, this is like such a love letter to like the ocean. Like, how could you not? And then it really sets you up to hate the poachers, the humans who are
Yes.
killing them just to get the thing from their brain that
Right.
lets humans live or
The new
stops aging.
unobtainium, if you will.
Yes, exactly. Um, so yeah, I really loved all the stuff with the kids and the stuff with
Mm.
the ocean in particular. I do feel like the like head of the Metacaina, forgot
Cliff
what his name
Curtis.
was,
Pretty good, I thought.
Tanawari. I actually thought he was like all right. I feel like both
Interesting.
him and Ronald, like they just like didn't give them enough to really be
No, they
much.
just have to be like regal leaders and
Exactly.
stuff. I like
Um,
I like the scene when they show up though, and like you know all the Sullys do the I see you, touch the
mhm.
head gesture, and then all the Metakaina are like, who the fuck are these weirdos with their little tails?
Yep. I know that was pretty good. Um, yeah. So tell me about the third hour, because I think that's really the thing. Oh
Yeah,
wait, actually, real quick, going back to the poachers, Jermaine Clement
yeah.
of I was gonna say
Flay the
Flock of Seagulls,
Concords.
Play of the Conquerors. Thank you.
Yeah,
I really love his performance in this because you can just
yeah,
tell that he feels so stuck by this like corporate capitalistic
yeah. Marine
thing,
biologist character.
but he really like has a love for them. And I was a little sad to see him die, but also felt like none of them could have made it out. So um
Yep.
also a little happy to see them die. Also Giovanni Ribisi just showing up for like one quick like download scene, which I loved that because it was literally a download scene where they're like, yeah, we're
Yeah,
just gonna
great
give you this
exposition.
information. So good.
Yeah.
um
Well, to that point, real quick, like, going in, obviously years and years ago, they announced Stephen Lang would return to Avatar 2,
mhm.
and not like Sigourney Weaver in a new role. He would return as Korrish, and I'm like, huh, how are they gonna do that? Because Korrish is super dead. Stupid me, if I had thought about it for more than a second. The bad guys have avatars too. What a great idea. How did I not see this coming?
I
But
mean,
I don't. I
yeah.
like Stephen Lang as a chewing the fuck out of everything over the top bad guy.
Mhm.
Calling people Buttercup and shit. Like I've always loved him as a bad guy, and like them being able to like kind of like go undercover a little bit as looking like the Navi and whatnot. I enjoyed that because I think they were able to kind of like play a lot of hits off the first movie throughout this part, like watching Quaritch go get the Banshee, go at the flying mount, right? Watching the Sullys learn how to ride the Sea Banshee equivalents basically and like go through that. Like I liked a lot of like the kind of like montages that are almost like nods to stuff that was like really big and rousing in the first movie. But yeah, overall, it was cool that Quaritch was back just because I thought Lang is really fun as the bad guy here. But
I
yeah,
agree.
the ending obviously is really big and wowing, and I think just really super engaging, and
Yeah, I
just
mean,
incredible action filmmaking. Honestly,
Cameron basically puts together Titanic and like Terminator 2 for that like final hour, and it just is fucking incredible. The guy obviously loves sinking ships. Like he loves things where the water is rising and it's like perfect storm-esque. I think when you finally get Jake having the showdown with Korish, it's just like fuck yeah, like let's go. And I really love the moment when like they like all the Sullys can get away and Korish is like, I'm always gonna be coming after you, like, and then he's like, all right, well, why don't we just end this now? I was like, let's go, like, really like was like stand up in your seat moment, really cool. Um, yeah, what were your favorite like moments in that final like hour?
yeah, definitely that. When Natayam dies, like him
Mm,
going back in to like save everyone else, and I started to get a feeling. I was like, we're gonna lose someone. There's no way.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, and the way he like at the end when he's about to die, and he's like, I want to go home, and they all like accept that he's about to pass, and they're like, yeah, it's okay, you can go home. I was like, oh, this is like really fucking sad, and
Hmm.
like I wouldn't expect to feel that about a character I just met, and also the character who's not Loak, the one you've spent all the time with, you know.
Right.
But I think like they do a good job of building up these connections of family and brotherhood, and I think Avatar through two movies also I've really enjoyed how they kind of present this kind of animist view of nature and whatnot, and Awa communing with everyone, right? So like when they pay it off at the end there and they return the Tayam's body to the sea, obviously a nod to how Sigourney Weaver's body is given away at the end of the first movie, but just like this stuff, like I'm only willing to meet Avatar where it's at with like its presentation of its like more spiritual stuff. I think a big part of that was Kiri. Basically, the whole time is able to slowly kind of fit into that in a new way for this story, which I quite enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, like I think like all the set pieces are really great too. Like everything with the whales too, like
Yes.
watching the poacher crew take down the whale in full. You watch like the whole sequence, and like like Spider is like fucking so sad watching it happen from like the bridge of the main ship and stuff. That was like I think really effective. And then obviously I just love watching like the Navi fly around or swim around attacking the humans. Like I think just it always looks so good, and it's just probably the best example of how this completely like CG realized world just looks so crisp,
Yep.
and it's not that the visuals are always like super amazing. I think a part of that is like the VFR does change, and it's hard to I think keep up with like what level of picture you're watching in real time. How can anyone like track that? But I just think the action is always it's just super credible and super thrilling as well. And like Jake and Natiri, like I just love watching them fucking slit throats because they're badasses.
Yeah, there's like that moment where they go back to the ship to get Took and the other daughter, Katiri, and
Yuri.
um, yes, thank you. And they get onto the boat, and they're like a stealth mission, basically, like kind of like sneaking around, even though all the Marines know that they're coming, and it's just like so tense and so well done. It's really amazing. You mentioned also the stuff with like the whales and the one that Loak befriends,
Yes, like
Patakin,
the outcast one.
Payakan. Man, he fucks shit up in that last scene, and it's so awesome. It's just like so satisfying to watch and like have the ocean kind of like get back. And also, I think who does he save at one point? Oh, doesn't he pull Jake and Loak up after
Yes,
yeah, that he's
yes.
drowning? That honestly is like some of the like most tense stuff is like how Natiri and Jake are both completely like spent after their individual battles, and
Hmm.
the way that Kiri and Loak save them is just really an awesome way I think to end the movie. And then you have like the final emotional beats, but
Right.
man, overall, just I thought the movie hit in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think even our introduction to Payakan, where Loak looks like he's fucking DOA from this shark,
Hmm.
gonna drown. Like that was, I think, really tense, really thrilling. And the way they faded out, I was like, oh my god, are we gonna lose a kid this way? He literally drowned. That would be fucking gutting. But
Hmm.
then you actually meet this completely new faction in the
Yeah,
Avatar world, which is these really thoughtful, intelligent whale creatures. I was like, wow,
more
this is
intelligent
great.
than us.
Yeah, pretty sick. Um, yeah, man. I thought the movie was really just a blast, and
Yeah,
obviously the spectacle is the number one like appeal of this movie, just like the first. I think that definitely delivers, but I think because there's a significant improvement on the emotional resonance of this story and your connection to the core characters, that's why I think it's a clear improvement on the next one. Producer John Landau said that they are looking, assuming they do go ahead with the future of the franchise, that they were looking to meet a new culture once again, which would be a new biome, which I think is like obviously
they're
very
obviously going to the
tantalizing.
air, right?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe like the desert or something. It's like I mean,
Yeah,
think of Star Wars, right? Like Star Wars is classic for all your biomes, right? Through the original trilogy, we go to desert world, snow world, forest world. I feel
Sky
like we're
World. Yep.
I feel like we're kind of doing that, which
Well,
I'm down for because like I like the different cultures of the Navi. I think is also still untapped potential as well because it also adds to this like general theme of togetherness and acceptance of stuff, which has kind of been through the whole movie ever since Jake went from outsider to leader of the Omaticaya. So
mhm.
I think there's a lot of potential for the future, and I think like the fact that they were able to step up, I think the dramatic beats of this franchise's storytelling has me like even actually more excited than I would have been, even if just the spectacle was great because we knew the spectacle would be great.
Well, and to kind of talk about the future, Cameron mentioned that he wants to make 5 of these, but if
Mhm.
this one flops or doesn't make as much money or there's not as much interest, he might only do 3.
Yeah,
What would be your call at this point? It's on pace to make 525 million opening weekend box office worldwide.
I think that's actually coming down a bit.
Okay.
Um, China number is a lot lower than expected for a number of factors, including COVID. So we can't really speak to the box office until we watch it through the end of the year. Obviously, it's about to just dominate the holiday time in the U.S., for example. Um, well, yeah, they're gonna make three because they already filmed all of three. They just have to pay for the posts, so that's already kind of decided, right?
Mhm.
Um, I'd love to see five. I don't know if we have if Cameron necessarily has the time, right? Because like he he has to want to go forward without necessarily waiting for new technology to be available to create. Lest we forget, Avatar was in his brain long before he made it. And same thing with Avatar 2 with like the underwater mocap. Again, they filmed this in real water. It wasn't CGI water. When you see the characters, it's mind blowing shit. Assuming he's not waiting to invent some new technology once again for the upteenth time, yeah, he can probably get it done. He is 68. Like he's got a ton of time left for these long productions, right?
Damn.
I'm certainly down for five, but we'll at least get three. So
Yeah. There is a piece of me that, I mean, if he wants to keep making these, I'll keep going. But I also would kind of like to see him get back to something a little bit more grounded.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like Terminator's not necessarily like a grounded movie. Aliens isn't like a grounded movie, but it's at least more of a world that we know.
He's a
Um,
bit removed from True Lies, wouldn't you say?
oh yeah, for sure. Um, you know, I don't know, like that. I think there is an aspect of this where he's such an innovator that you want to see him keep innovating, but
Right.
like he just does things on like anything he takes on, he just does it on such a great level. I would almost like see him take on something like Titanic, like a real world event,
Hmm.
and like
Hmm.
make a spectacle of it.
Yeah. I
I
guess
don't
like the
know.
comp to that right now would be Nolan doing Oppenheimer, which we'll get next year.
Yes,
You know, Nolan is a bit of a comparison to Cameron in terms of the kind of filmmaker they are.
spectacle.
Um, one thing we should probably mention still regarding Way of the Water. How did you feel about the character Spider? You know, new character, a
Yeah.
human, kind of a feral human character, quote unquote, an obvious homage to Newt from Aliens.
Hmm.
Uh, it's revealed quite quickly that Spider is also not just the son of a human who left; he's actually the son of Quaritch himself.
Hmm.
How did you feel about Spider? You know, he's kind of, in a sense, an adopted son, still kind of an outcast. They really do their best, I think, to keep his arc close to the vest in terms of will he get connected to his dad, especially when he's like watching like the tape of Natiri killing his dad in real life. You
Hmm.
know, I think it was an intriguing character. I think for the most part, the fact that he was like a real person looked great next to all the Navi in the CG environments. Like there was no
Yeah.
uncanny valley with him to me at all. But how did you feel about the spider arc? Obviously, he saves Avatar Quaritch at the end, even though he won't align with him. He's doesn't break bad or anything, but keeps Quaritch in play. Interesting character. You know, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I think I did like him.
Yeah. I think I was I liked seeing him on screen, like you mentioned. Seeing him next to the Navi was really cool. And I think he has some really great moments. I think his connection with Quaritch was something that I was a little. I don't know. I don't know if it totally worked for me,
Maybe
especially because
underdeveloped, I guess. You know.
yeah, and like at the end when Corge decides not to like or to let go of one of the daughters, I think it was Took that he had at that point, to let go of Took in order to like not have Natiri kill Spider, which
Yeah.
I don't think she would have done anyway, but obviously like he wasn't gonna let her like call her bluff and like let her potentially do it. I don't know if that like fully made sense because as much as there was like they were kind of setting up like oh their connection was building like you said, it's not actually his son. Like this is not like he has his memories. The Avatar has the memories and the personality, but it's not actually the Avatar's son. And Porch is such a cutthroat person in all these movies. I wouldn't. I don't know if that totally made sense or hit for me. I do think Spider like saving Corch was one of the most like a fucking course like this guy just can't fucking die like no matter what
Right.
they do he just can't fucking die moments and I was actually kind of looking forward to them just like introducing like a new villain in the
Yeah.
next one like
Edie
someone maybe even
Falco, little
yeah
cameo in Avatar: Way of the Water as like the new commander of the human presence.
right so I was like okay like this is gonna be a chance for them to like introduce a new villain like really level up but this guy's just like the Terminator now like he's just
Yeah,
gonna keep getting bigger and badder.
right. Well, I think it could be interesting if maybe Quaritch gets to like break bad and go rogue a little bit and not be directly aligned with the humans and almost be like a third faction or force in some way.
Hmm.
Not sure if you could get there like dramatically with making that make sense, but that kind of came to mind for me. Um, yeah. Well, on its face though, like we saw that new human base and all the tech they have and stuff, and it's like clearly the Navi insurgency will not end anytime soon,
Hmm.
as that's established for the third movie. But yeah, I guess more to come. TBD on the Spider character, right? I think overall the other Sully kids, I think, are all resounding successes, and
Yes,
Spider is not a success. It's just probably not as successful, or probably would need more time, and we'll see how that goes. But
for sure.
yeah, man, I just I had a really good time with it. I was really happy that I enjoyed it as much as I did because I had a lot of anticipation for it, and uh, yeah, it's an exciting time to have like a true like event movie. here
Yeah.
again, and the box office will be very interesting to follow because this, like, not to the degree of the first one, but it will perform like the first one, where this movie is expected to leg out at the box office and really draw people to the theater for an extended amount of time, at least until like Martin Luther King weekend. Assumingly it'll be like the number one for like 5-6 weeks in a row. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see like casual movie going attend this movie similar to how Top Gun Maverick performed. So
Mhm.
the business will be interesting to follow.